Hey there, and welcome to CREATE+CO podcast. I'm Christina York, co-founder and principal at CREATE+CO Architecture and Interior Design Studio. As a workplace alchemist and advocate, I'm here to be your guide through the art of designing spaces where people truly work, live, and thrive. Whether leading a team, running a business, or simply trying to improve your own space, this podcast is for you. So tune into CREATE+CO as we discover the power of design to transform how we work, live, and thrive. So today's conversation is about place and the responsibility that comes with shaping it. I'm joined today by Lauren Campbell, founder Archer Group, whose work spans retail, leasing, development, and placemaking across Tampa Bay. She's currently leading retail leasing for Gasworx in Ybor City, and her perspective is shaped by years of curating how people experience places and how neighborhoods find the rhythm. This isn't a conversation about square footage or timelines. It's about how people move through spaces and what makes them feel welcome, and how thoughtful decisions at street level can shape culture over time. Nice. So, Lauren, thanks so much for joining me. I really appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule. And I'm looking forward to getting a little deeper into this conversation. You know, we've talked before, and I kind of got a glimpse into, sort of the way that you think about this development and this neighborhood and how close this is to your heart. So I'm really looking forward to getting closer into that conversation. So let's start off with Ybor City. I mean, it sets the backdrop for Gasworx, right? So what does this neighborhood mean to you personally?
Well, thank you for having me. I'm really excited to get to talk about this. I am always excited to talk about place. It's kind of my passion. And
Tell.
for sure. Yeah, it's been a long time passion of mine. And Ybor is really like, this project in particular is really a culmination of that. What does Ybor mean to me? I mean, it means a lot of the same things to me as it means to other people, right? It is a really special place. I'm not from Tampa originally. I've been here a long time. I don't know if I'm going to tell you how long I've been here. I'm a pre-COVID transplant. I'll tell you that. I didn't get here since college. And when I arrived here, it was from New York. Which I don't have to tell probably most people is a very walkable place.
Yeah.
Growing up, even on Long Island, where I'm from originally on the South Shore, me and my sister, we had bikes, and we would ride down to the corner store. We could get a bagel. We could stop in the candy shop. We would pick up my mom's dry cleaning. Like, your entire life happened on foot or on bike. You knew your neighbors. My grandmother was down the street. My cousins were around the corner. And that was something that was really special about living up north. And it made our communities so tight-knit. And it allowed our communities to develop so differently in how communities in most parts of Florida develop. When I came to Tampa for school to go to USF, and I first put my eyes on Ybor, I was not familiar with Ybor. I didn't know really the history of it necessarily, but I understood it. And it felt familiar to me. And there was like a sense of place and a sense of home here that I immediately understood. And so it's always been very special to me because it's always resonated.
Has that wonderful urban vibe to it.
Very much.
And all of the components that you were just talking about, right? And the walkability. And so I love that. And I can see why that's why you would have connected with it. It kind of felt like home away from home a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. So when you walk through Ybor today, what do you notice that a lot of people might miss? Because not everybody has the same perspective on Ybor that you have. I like to think that's changed. It is changing, which is wonderful. But I mean, what are you seeing that maybe some people just, kind of...
I think that there is a few things. There is a resiliency in Ybor that is really, I would argue, is pretty tough to miss, actually. I would hope that I'm not the only one that can see that.
So I read here.
There is definitely grit and resiliency and a work ethic amongst the local businesses in particular. And frankly, the people who choose to live here today prior to any real residential development being created. I mean, now with Casa Marti and Casa Gomez and Pedroso and La Union being delivered, excuse me, just to name a few. There's obviously more residential multifamily available than there was 10 plus years ago. But generally speaking, I'm referring to the business community, right? And so, like, you have institutional businesses
Yes.
inside of the boundary of the city of Tampa, some of the longest serving, the most well-respected, the most heavily identifiable, recognizable, and Tampa branded concepts that come to mind when you say city of Tampa. Sit in Ybor City.
They were pioneers, right?
Newman, right? The Columbia restaurant.
Columbia.
I mean, these, but then at the same time, you have places that have been here and like somewhat under the radar for 40 plus years. You have La France, which is one of the most incredible like vintage shops, I'd argue, in the country.
I love it.
It's incredible, right? And you can get new clothes
in there.
You get old, like true vintage, like really great vintage wares in there, right?
Yeah.
Got an international headquarters for a major furniture company. Ashley headquarters is over here in Centro. I mean, these are not, but that's not a small fact. Like, that's an important thing to be paying attention to. Like, what is it about these small companies and these big companies and these new companies and these old companies, by and large, that Ybor is speaking to them?
Yeah.
And how do we help Ybor create more opportunity for more folks here and more folks from outside of here find their home if this is the right place for them, right? Not every place is the right place for everybody.
Sure.
West Shore is going to be a good home for
the right folks, right? Yes.
Exactly. But Ybor is a very special place. And I think what it's finding is that its niche really is in this creative realm. When there's an opportunity for creatives to come together, whether that isn't, craftsmanship with cigar rolling or using your hands to make wonderful, like high quality food and beverage, or if it's in the physical arts, whether that's photography or painting or whatever it is, if it's in the furniture arts, like there is something about making and maker space here that really just thrives. And I think is a through line through time in Ybor that's been really interesting. So what I notice is that creatives, large and small, old and new, really find a comfort in Ybor, and that there's clearly a home here for them.
I agree. I mean, and we're a great example of that, right? We were downtown for years, and we were in St. Pete before that. And when we were downtown, we were in one of the older buildings. But that was as far as we would go into downtown. There was no way we were going to land in a high rise or anything like that, because that just wasn't our vibe. So you originally studied architecture before moving into real estate. What did that early training teach you about the experience of space?
So much. So much. I think probably one of the first things it really taught me is, most people think about space as three-dimensional, right? Which consequentially it really kind of is, right?
Right.
I mean, go back to your 9th grade math class. Geometry, right? It is three-dimensional. Yes. But all space happens through time. And so place is really 4-dimensional.
Yes.
Right?
Yep. That is actually what converts it from space to place.
I totally agree with you.
Absolutely.
And so I like to think about our projects in those 4 dimensions. But there's so many ways to think about time. So there is the story of a place. What was this place? What is it today? What might it be? And when? This time next year, in a decade from now, 100 years henceforth, right?
Right.
Those are 3 different things and everything in between. And to go back to your question about architecture, like what did it teach me? The geometry of architecture is so important in creating the stage for which that happens.
Yes.
Making sure that you are doing things like the boring stuff, like future-proofing spaces. What do I mean? I mean, knowing that you want, let's say, a large scale restaurant facing a park, but the reality of getting that restaurant to be 5,000 square feet today, economically to work in your pro forma
Right.
may not translate. And so you may need to split the space today. So you'll need to have 2 doors, and to draw that into your drawings, you get that in there early so that you can allow your leasing team to subdivide that space, do a shorter term lease for 2 smaller spaces at a higher square foot so your pro forma works, so you can actually build the dang thing.
Yes.
And then later, when the entire project is stabilized and it's an exciting place to be and you have more interest from larger format users, you can remove the demising wall and put in your larger format user and have your anchor retail. Because not every tenant will stay for every period or cycle of your entire project.
Absolutely.
But you have to think through these things. And as an architect, you control a lot of that narrative, right? Ceiling heights are another one.
And we have the responsibility for that. And I talked to a client just the other day about that. And their broker, even though we may be only planning and designing for one tenant or, one client, there is this responsibility also to the landlord, the developer, the other users. Like, what does that do to that space? And like you said, future proofing is not just you can have enough space for next year, 5 years from now. It's what does that whole kind of ecosystem look like in a couple of years? And when you do take that space, what happens to the other tenant? And if how do you kind of plan for that? And so it's so critical. And so I love that, that's a huge part of what you're looking at, because it's, it's critical.
It's
to do
super
that
important,
for, like
right?
I said, the ecosystem of it all, right?
Yeah. I need certain ceiling heights. I know that. That's just, in retail, that's just like a metric. I honestly, the lowest ceiling height I can really take is like 12 or 13 feet. And even then I'm like, can a little more, right? But if you start doing the math and you work backwards from, say, like 13 feet floor to, ceiling to floor, and had an 8-inch slab, and you keep going, like, now you're talking about where the floor of the second floor apartment building is and where you're going to put a patio on that second floor. And that basically is a very thin eyebrow over the retail. And you're like, oh, it's covered. And it's like, it's not really covered. They're not really creating a meaningful overhang that's going to protect any. If it's 16 or 18 feet up and it's 3 feet wide, it's not protecting you from the sun or from the rain.
You're actually creating a downpour right on the edge of the back.
Exactly.
The folks
And these are the
coming
things where, like, when I'm talking to tenants, it sounds great. And they're like, oh, this is awesome. And then you get there and it gets built, and then this happens, and then they can't do their outdoor seating, but it rains in Florida all the time and it's hot. And so they've lost their seat count. And like, I'm getting so into the weeds, but the point is that this is the stuff that I learned in architecture, because so many brokers come to real estate with a real estate degree or a finance degree or a business degree, which are great degrees to have. And they're important degrees to have.
Right.
But they understand the pro forma side so well. And they can explain finances and metrics and return on investment and cash flow analysis and debt service ratios, but they do not understand why a restaurant fails when they've been given so much great outdoor patio space on a corner overlooking a park on the premier spot in the neighborhood. How did you not make it?
Yeah.
It's like, well, no one wants to sit out there because we didn't have any real shade, because the shade you told us we had didn't do anything for us.
Yeah.
And everybody baked, and I didn't have the seating inside, and my lag time for my turnover was so long that people went across the street to the other restaurants.
Yeah.
And my butts and seats count wasn't high enough because I didn't actually take enough indoor space. And it just becomes a snowball, and now they can't pay the rent. That's the kind of thing that architecture can fix if we talk about it up front.
Which is great, because we don't always get to come in that early, right? Right. So as architects and designers, we don't always get to come in. You guys are kind of, creating the deal on the pro formas, all the other things. So
Yeah.
I think that's really important that you're having those conversations and seeing that before you have the opportunity to put together the whole team. So I can certainly appreciate that perspective.
Well,
And
it
then
does,
they'll
though.
let
That's
come
what
along
they
as
partner with you.
designing about it, and we're like, oh wait, well, we didn't get permissions to have, the overhang any bigger, So if we
Yeah.
wind up working within constraints that are not realistic,
Right.
because that's just the way that the deal was structured. So
Right.
yes, when we have an insightful brokerage team that can look ahead to that, it's much easier.
Yeah, and like to come away from Gasworks for a minute and talk about like other projects we're working right now. We're in early advisory stages on another project close to USF, and there's to talk about like psychogeography for a minute, right? Which is the psychology of geography or the psychology of spaces and places.
I can't agree more.
Yeah.
We struggle with that all the time. I won't say we struggle with it, but we recognize very early on in our practice that yes, we wish we had more psychology classes, because that's really what the heart of it is. And
Yes.
that's what the podcast came from. It's to talk more about psychology and the softer side of what we design on the daily, because that influences everything. Every line we draw,
Yeah.
every conversation that we have, every experience that we create in a space is based on the psychology
That's right.
of that space and how that person moves through, that space. So,
Oh.
I totally agree. And I think it's fascinating personally. I'm with you. I love the study of it and understanding, a lot more about it. So when someone visits Gasworks, we'll talk about Gasworks now for the first time. Where does this experience that we're talking about, where does that really begin? And what matters most to you from that arrival to the departure?
Yeah, so I mean, the real answer is that the first place Gasworks lives, which is the first place all of these kinds of projects and any neighborhood, forget projects, any neighborhood, any city, any country lives,
Yeah.
is on the internet, right? And maybe more specifically, on the internet of your peers, friends, and family, which is the most important part. Because yes, you can Google Gasworks and you can go to the website, and maybe you will.
Right.
And it's going to be really important that our marketing, not my marketing team, but the Gasworks marketing team does a great job. And that's led by Gabby Soriano over at Kettler. And she's incredible. So it will be amazing. Right?
And what's there already is amazing.
And what's there already is amazing. And as we add more context and as we sign more deals and more of that information shows up on the website, it will be that much more incredible.
Yes.
Most people won't stop there, though. Most people will ask their friends, have you been? What did you like? What didn't you like? I mean, just look at Water Street as an example, right?
Oh, yes.
It's completely different than what we're going for. But it's the same thing, right? What's your favorite restaurant at Water Street? Should I go to Boulan or should I go to Predolina first? I'm thinking of going to this concert, where should I park? Like, I thought I was going to park here. Is that a good idea?
Yes.
How early should I leave? Like, is there anything to do afterwards? Like, I was going to walk the river walk. Is that like too far? You start getting all this feedback from oh, don't do that. You wouldn't want, it's so much traffic. And it's like, oh, well, that's your friend from Ruskin telling you that. What about your friend that lives at the Addition? Did they rise too much traffic? And those opinions look a little different, right?
Sure. So, and then there's just, the social media in general.
Of
You can
course.
go stalk everybody, basically, and get a lot of that information without even asking, right?
That's right. So my goal is that the experience that you have at Gasworks is the experience that you want to have, right?
That's a good answer.
So I hope between what the Kettler team is able to design on that website and is authentic in showing you what's going to be there, but that you're able to find what you're looking for, because we have enough retail to deliver an experience that almost anybody's going to enjoy. They're going to find something for them there, right? Without being so broad and without being so, overly zealous about what we're going after, that it feels like an everywhere for everybody, because that is not a path to success. But you don't want to be myopic and say it's for just like this very specific small group of folks, because that's not the solution either.
You want people to be able to find just enough of a reflection of themselves in what they're looking at, right? And what they're seeking. But just enough of that reverb, like you said, of what they're looking for.
Exactly.
To intrigue them.
And so the other side of this coin is, if we're going to talk about the physicality of Gasworks and like what's the most important kind of first impression and how do I think about that physically versus the internet.
Yeah.
then the answer really is going to come back to very similar to those conversations you were having about the campus project I'm working on, right? The whole project is important. Every space is incredibly well thought out, merchandised, re-merchandised, re-thought over, gone over with, our consultants and our teams, gone over with our consultants and our team members to make sure that we're getting everything right, that the co-tenancies is right? Because you can put two great tenants into a project, but if you put them next to each other, it might make no sense.
Right.
Putting a
Complementary.
Yeah, they need to be complementary, but also the time of day, like we were talking about, right? Like, this is a great time to talk about this. Most people who are going to experience Gasworx during the weekday in the morning are going to typically be folks who are living either within the boundary of the project or immediately adjacent to it, right? In the nearby apartments.
Right.
Or folks who are working in the office building that we're building, 100,000 square foot office building. Or there's it's technically outside the boundary of Gasworx, but it's immediately adjacent. There's about 500,000 square feet of immediately adjacent office. So there's a small office district there. It's work from home, residents, and office workers. Where do they come from? Well, a lot of the residential is on the north side or on the northwest side of the project. All of the office is on the north side of the project, whether it's within the boundary or just outside the boundary. And everyone who's coming to the office is either coming from their apartments or coming by vehicle, almost certainly from I-4 or 275, right, in the morning. So their immediate entry point, their first look at Gasworx is from that northern entrance into the north parking garage at the E1 building, which is the first building once you come from 7th Avenue headed south. It's that first block. Sorry, I don't have any visuals.
No, that's okay.
With me on the podcast.
Visuals back up.
I'm trying to explain it well enough so that people can visualize it in their
That makes sense.
So if you were standing on
That is just working really hard.
Yeah. If you're standing on 7th Avenue and you're looking south towards downtown and you start walking 2 blocks south, you would hit the first apartment building.
Right.
That has a huge garage that would accommodate not just the apartment dwellers parking, but also office parking. If that makes sense.
And guests, right?
Correct. And guests. And so when they come out of that building, what do they see? We're standing on the first complete retail block when you come out of that garage. There's a north side that you're standing on and a south side. The north side is the retail underneath the apartment building and garage that you're in. And the south side is the office building and its retail.
Right.
And the marketplace building and its retail. And that creates a true corridor, right? You have this retail that talks to one another, talks to each other across the street, a real outdoor living room, if you will.
Right.
I need to make sure that retail is turned on. So if you're arriving at 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock in the morning,
right,
I better not have a cocktail bar that opens at 5 p.m.
Yes, please.
Facing you, because it'll be dark.
Yes.
Right? What would be a better use? A coffee shop, a juice bar, a fitness concept, so you can go work out before work or maybe during your lunch break.
Right.
A sit-down breakfast restaurant or a brunch spot, right? Daily needs. Sorry.
It's okay.
Daily needs like a dry cleaner. Maybe you want to pop in and get a bagel. In the marketplace, maybe this is where you have your breakfast concept that's going to be in the market, right? This is where your morning activities are going to be turned on. And the whole neighborhood will be lit up. This does a couple things. First of all, it's much more exciting. Second of all, it's creating It's creating a sense of amenitization
Yes.
for that residential building. Because this 5-story residential building doesn't have its own gym or anything like that. And so we are amenitizing it with its retail. So
Yeah, that makes
it's
complete
provided,
sense.
right?
Yeah.
And then it is also appropriate for who the users are in space and time.
Right.
Remember space and time?
Exactly.
And there's theatrics, right? You have, I really believe in this idea of like, retail works best when there are actors, right?
Yes.
And audience.
Yes.
And so when you have, you know, high intensity fitness and then a low intensity coffee shop across from that, that's like looking out the window, watching somebody do like, I don't know, squats and whatever. Like there's
Also, I want to eat my scone.
I don't know, you
Drink my latte while I'm watching someone on the treadmill.
I don't know. I think it's shock what people are into these days, right? But like, you want to see activity, right?
Yeah.
You want to see like a buzz, but then you want these moments of rest, and then you also want to make sure that you have small spaces because the more you can push activity to the street, like if you have a really deep space,
Yeah.
you can have a bunch of people in there and it still feels empty,
Right.
right?
No idea what's going on.
No idea what's going on. The windows, it's hard to tell. Also, the other thing too is if you've got a really deep space or a really large space that goes really wide, people, their eyes get bored. There's actually a thing in malls. So next time you're in a mall, you'll notice like the mall will eventually start to curve, even if you think it's a big square mall, which it might be, or a rectangle. They'll eventually start to curve, or they'll place something like an object in the way, like an escalator or an elevator system.
Yeah.
And it's to break up your eyesight, and it's so you can't just kind of lean and be like, nope, no stores down there for me, I'm good. We don't want you to be able to do that, because our eyes get bored. And we want a facade to be undulating. We want textures to change. We're bored by that. We don't want repetition
too, right?
Repetition
I mean,
is
wants to
fatiguing.
keep going.
Think about music.
Right.
We love a great crescendo. Our brain rewards us with happy dopamine when we can guess the next part of how a song's going to go. I mean, that's like, there's real research out there. And architecture is just frozen music, right? So,
No, that's interesting. Frozen music.
you never heard that one?
No.
Yeah.
I love it.
So I just think that like there's so much beauty in how similar architecture is to art and how much we as humans thrive when we're around that kind of beauty and that kind of thoughtfulness.
Right.
And it can still be simple if it's thoughtful.
Agreed.
Right? And so we're working on being thoughtful without overspending because we have a budget to work within.
Sure.
But I can do that because I can break those spaces up and have that excitement and that activity in smaller spaces. Smaller spaces drives rent, right? Because when you're talking about smaller spaces, most people do not think in price per square foot. That's how Excel pro formas think. That's how computers think. That's how business people and finance people think, which is fine because we need those people because we need banks to fund projects. But business owners think in overhead and in compensation to employees and in how many coffee cups they have to sell in order to make rent. I look at return on experience. I am much more interested in what is the minimum viable product that we can put out space-wise that is let's call it like gets you 85% of the way there for the most amount of kinds of tenants that would be the most desirable for this type of project, who's going to add value and bring a friend, right?
Yes.
And then my job is to be a good partner. And my job is to help my client, in this case, the developer, the landlord, to be a great partner to their tenant. Most negotiations that happen in brokerage are landlord versus tenant. Somebody's a winner and somebody's a loser,
Yeah.
right? Someone's going to get one over on the other guy. And it all just leaves a bad taste in everybody's mouth. Somebody always feels like they got the short end of some stick. It doesn't leave any room for goodwill. Now, I am not saying that that is every tenant and every landlord in every relationship. But by and large,
a lot of them.
by and large, that's how a lot of those relationships go.
And it's unintentional a lot of times.
It's not intentional.
It's just we're all covering, our papers and, trying to get the best
It's just
deal.
the name of the game.
Exactly.
Right. It just really kind of is. Even the most well-meaning ones. But if you approach it where you understand that the landlord is the real estate expert and that he has something valuable for the tenant.
Right.
And that the tenant is the curation expert and they have something valuable for the landlord. And that they are better off as business partners, and that the lease is really a kind of business agreement that is meant to put both tenant and landlord in the best possible position together.
Right.
Right?
Exactly.
We're going to take risk together. I'm going to trust you. You're going to trust me. I'm going to try and give you the best foot forward I can so you can be the most successful. It's cheaper for me to keep you and have you make the most money.
Absolutely.
It's cheaper for you to stay and be very successful here. But the other thing is if I'm being a selfish landlord, which I'd like to be, I want you to not only be successful, but if I'm curating, like if I'm choosing you because I think that you're the best coffee shop, I've interviewed 10 coffee users and you have the best coffee program and hospitality, or you're the best pizza shop, or you're the best nail salon, or whatever it is, you're the best of the best, a true connoisseur.
Right.
And now you're bringing that to the table. That is going to spread by word of mouth, which is the most important way that something can spread.
That's massive value. And that is an intangible. It's not something you can put a price on.
You cannot put a price on it. That is authenticity at its core.
Yes.
And you cannot purchase that. No amount of paying the business journal to do a write-up, no amount of nothing can buy you that. You have to earn that. You have to. And
It's organic.
People are desperate for it, right? And people also love to be in on the ground floor of things.
Yeah.
People love to have their special place, right? So like, I can ask you this, I can ask the audience this, and everyone will have a different answer. You have family or friends coming into town for 48 hours. They want to know, where am I going? I'm in Tampa. I've got 48 hours. I'm bringing 2 friends with me. Like, we need the best coffee shop. We need where are we going for dinner? Where should I make a reservation? I heard, I read the Michelin guide. Like, I know I'm supposed to go here and there and wherever. We did make that one reservation at Burns because apparently you have to go there.
Right.
It's like, yeah, of course you do. It's an institution.
You start with the food every time. Where am I going to have breakfast, lunch, and dinner?
Right.
And then what experiences am I going to have surrounding those meals?
Right.
That are going to make my trip
like,
complete, right?
What's your coffee shop? Where's your go-to coffee shop in Tampa? Right?
Yeah.
I'm not going to put you on the spot and make you say it, but
where's coffee clients? I need exactly neutral.
Same. I have to be neutral. But your coffee shop might be different than mine, but it's your coffee shop.
Right.
You identify with it. It's personal to you. You live and die by it, right? Like if they put out a tweet tomorrow or an Instagram post of like, oh no, Kathy at the coffee shop is diagnosed with some terrible disease and we're raising money, like you'd be there tomorrow buying 4 cups of coffee and gift cards for everybody.
Absolutely.
Your coffee shop. And I'd be doing the same thing because we have giant.
See them go anywhere.
You wouldn't do that for Starbucks.
No.
Right. Nobody would. Nobody cares about Starbucks. Not really. Because what's important is either we're filling a want or a need. Right? And it's always that way. It's like, I need to eat. I need to go to the grocery store. I want to go to Whole Foods. Right?
Makes it less painful.
Yeah.
Especially on the grocery store.
Yeah. I need to go to the grocery store. Yeah. I want to go to Hotel Haya and have lunch at the bar instead. So I'm being a bad girl and doing that instead. Right? So it's always a juxtaposition.
Sure.
And I think that that's the most important thing when we're talking about retail is like, how do I pull on those strings between, static and kinetic energy, audience and performer, needs and wants, daily uses and special things, things that you can rely on, things that happen every day, and surprise things, like little creative things that you can discover on your own. People love discovery. So it's really about, but that's, again, we're back to psychology. You think it's real estate and architecture, but it's psychology.
Absolutely. Because we're dealing with people. And at the heart, it's what people are thinking. It's how they're experiencing it. It's, it's their informed, pre-experiences, their traumas, their joy, their all of the mix of everything, right? So you already kind of touched on a lot of this. But my next question was, at what point do you realize that leasing and curation could shape experience as much as design? So we pretty much covered most of that. Is there anything that you want to add to kind of wrap that thought up?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like immediately, I learned it almost immediately after getting into retail, into the retail world. I mean, leasing is a tool to accomplish that, right? Like, I think maybe
it's a good vehicle for it.
It's a good vehicle for it. That's exactly right. Yeah. Maybe the way I'd say it is this, is like, retail is the tool or the vehicle. Place is the marketplace for the commodification of culture. Leasing is the tool to place it, but creating the place itself through leasing. That is where culture happens.
Right.
And that is where people go to acquire and to participate in the commodification of culture. And I mean that in a good way, because if we're not participating in culture, if we're not, I'm saying commodification, I mean the transaction of money, right?
Right.
But I also mean the transaction of one culture and another. I mean it sociologically. I mean it artistically.
Yes.
I mean it economically. I mean it in every way that you can commodify something. It's a place in an idea exchange, and it doesn't happen in spaces, it happens in places. And places only exist when great leasing occurs, and great leasing only occurs inside of great architecture, and great architecture only occurs when you have a lot of really creative people working together behind the scenes to make sure that buildings and projects are being built in a way that are more thoughtful than just in a two-dimensional performer.
Right. And I appreciate that you look at it from all of those different angles.
It's important.
Super important. So we also dove into, those moments that matter from the arrival to departure, and kind of went through that journey. I don't know if there's anything else we want to add there. But is there one part of the experience that you're especially protective of getting right?
Yes.
And what is that?
It's the marketplace.
Okay.
So the marketplace sits on the E2 block, directly at the center of this project, across from the park that's being built, next to the office building, and between the two apartment buildings that are currently under construction. Obviously, there'll be additional phases that go around it, but it is truly the heart of the entire district. And it's activated on all four sides.
And it's an existing building.
building.
That's even more exciting.
That's a great point. It is the only existing building in the entire project. I think what's really special about this project is that it operates inside of the context of the greater Ybor area, which sits primarily inside of the Barrio Latino Commission,
right,
which is a designated historic district that the BLC oversees, which is why Ybor looks the way it does today, is because they control it and and manage it so well.
they're a great group to work with. I just have to say,
fantastic.
and has some people always think, it's so tough. You got to go before the barrio. And I think, no, but when you're working with them in partnership, we've had great success, in getting through projects.
Not everything good should be easy.
This is true.
And not everything easy is good. They've done a great job over time. There's the ARC over the rest of the historic districts in the city of Tampa, but the BLC oversees the historic district for Ybor.
Right.
Part of this project sits inside of the BLC line. Part of it sits outside of the BLC line. What's interesting about the marketplace is it's a double barrel roofed building. And the BLC line runs directly through it between the two barrels. So it's very weird. And so the north barrel, or the north side of the marketplace, is in the historic district, and the south barrel is outside of it. So there'll be this beautiful pedestrian-only alleyway between the office building, retail, and what I'll call like the backside retail of the marketplace building.
Yeah.
And that building, the marketplace building, will have 4 sides to it. That building, though, is a true marketplace. It's designed as a true marketplace. What do I mean when I say that? Armature Works is fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
It's a food hall. There's nothing wrong with that. It's great. We didn't have one. We needed it. Look at what Armature Works has done for that neighborhood, and frankly, as a catalyst for all of downtown.
Absolutely.
Right? I think that it was a much needed project at a time and place. We talk about time and place.
Absolutely.
Time and place was perfect. Tampa, unlike most other major cities, does not have a true marketplace. Think like a Union Station, think like a Chelsea Market, something like that. We just don't have one. And so we are in the process of taking the north side of the market, and turning it into a small format marketplace. There will be F&B users, some small format, some larger format. There'll be a center bar. The food and beverage, we're pushing every tenant to have a component where whatever their product is, whatever their food type is, that they have that for sale to go.
Okay.
And that they also have an activation.
Right.
But we don't want just food, right? So, and then there's the center bar. Bringing in soft goods, bringing in floral, bringing in plants, bringing in wine and bottle shop, like bringing in all these components so that theoretically you and we can live upstairs in one of these apartments or be at the office and say, you know what, I think I'm going to make a really nice, surf and turf dinner tonight.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to run down to the market and grab all the ingredients and head back to the garage and go home.
Yeah.
And I don't have to stop at the grocery store. From a local perspective, it might be more exciting for people from and around Tampa to hear of a national group coming in.
Mm-hmm.
That's something unique.
Yeah.
Initially, to get them to come. Because most people who are coming from out of town who want to experience something, they want to experience Tampa.
The local.
Yeah. They don't want to experience a Nashville concept or a Las Vegas concept or a New York concept when they're in Tampa. They want to experience a Tampa concept in Tampa. Right? So the national groups coming in and starting, having a home here is great, but I actually think it services more our local clients.
I can see that, and I can see it also kind of underlying being a little bit of credibility.
For sure.
All the local, all these local joints that are kind of surrounding this national concept. Right. It's like, oh, okay. Well, yeah, so that vibe, right? Yeah.
You have 2 of them facing each other. So you've got the Pearl, right? Which is you've got a celebrity chef backed national brand,
right,
in the Pearl, and then across the street you have Bulan, which is a local. That's Next Level Brands, Jeff Gigante's concept, right?
Right.
So and both are excellent.
So after working across different neighborhoods and scales, what excites you most about this project, Gasworx?
So this project's really exciting because a lot of projects that I work on and that a lot of people work on are blank slates, right? So They're either something like Water Street, which is incredible, where you just literally have a dirt lot or more than several dirt lots,
Right.
and they just go vertical, and you get to create this whole new story from scratch. Or you're working at a scale that is within the framework of a neighborhood, right? So you have a single block that maybe you're doing a project on, or if you're lucky, it's maybe 2 blocks and it's being woven inside of a neighborhood. This is an entire neighborhood. It's being woven inside of a district, right? A larger neighborhood. Gasworx is going to have its own personality. It's going to have its own character. It's going to have its own story within a story. But the coolest part of this is like, we're not creating anything from scratch. It's just a next chapter in Ybor's story, which is really Tampa's story, right? So Ybor has this incredible history. And there's, thanks to in part the BLC and the historic overlay and the work of so many people through so many decades, right? The idea of its story being so well preserved, both physically, like in the physical environment, and in books, and in stories passed down from people, and in the neighborhood itself.
At like a core level.
At a core level, at a literal DNA level, because of the preservation of the history of Ybor.
That's amazing.
And because of the ties to the community that this place really has, and because of the ability of Ybor's fingers to just like get out past its history and be part of like the present today.
Yeah.
And so
that's incredible.
Yeah, to say like it's a special project to work on is really an understatement, because all the projects we work on are special in their own way. But this one is just, it's something unique and different about it. And I feel very lucky that Daryl and Kettler and that team has entrusted us to be their partner. Yeah, it could have been very easy for them to go with somebody else, a bigger group, a group that they knew better than us. But, you know, I feel like we see really eye to eye with them, and our teams drive very well. I love working with them. It's been a real joy.
They're very vested in this community. They're very vested in the story and the stories behind these families and these businesses and communities. And I think that that's probably, you know, one of the biggest connections that you guys have, right? Is that you also are vested in the community. And with Kelly, she is literally
literally
tied to the community. And I think that makes the conversation so much more rich and meaningful. Yeah, between the future tenants and, and your excitement and your experience and, this kind of work, and also in architecture and design, and, tying all that together, I think makes people feel a lot more comfortable, in considering what they could do, like how they can, visualize, what they could be in this community and in this district now, right?
But I think people are really like, what I'm noticing as we talk to people about the project is, well, it's just that we're talking to them about the project. We're not pitching the project.
Yeah.
Because I don't actually think this is a project that you pitch.
So 10 years from now, what do you hope people will say Gasworx gave back to Ybor, if anything?
Nothing. Ybor doesn't need anything from Gasworx. I don't think, if Gasworx does its job, which I think it will just be another chapter in Ybor's story, a successful chapter in Ybor's story, and it will feel like something that fits and something that belongs. Ybor does not need Gasworx in that way. Gasworx is important. Gasworx will be a catalyst. It already is a catalyst.
Right.
Gasworx is simply the first stitch in the quilt, reconnecting Ybor to downtown. We still have Ybor Harbor.
Yeah.
We still have the Tampa General site, Tampa General Hospital site over in East Ybor to deal with. There's plenty of work to do along Adamo Drive. There's plenty of work to do along Nebraska.
Yeah.
That not even to talk about what's happening up by J.C. Newman and all of that. But nothing.
Okay. That's a good answer. It's just its next act.
It's its next act. I like how
Okay.
you bring it back to the theater.
I like that.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Lauren, thank you so much for this thoughtful conversation. I really appreciate
Thanks for
diving
having me.
into all of this. And I love the way you and your group are approaching it. And I know that completely aligns with Kettler and Shaw's group. And we're excited about the project. And we're,
Us too.
we love it. It's our hood, over here, and this community, and we love to just see more and more of this revitalization happening. It's really exciting. So we're looking forward to seeing how it all continues to take shape and being a part of that.
Yeah, me
So-
too. I can't wait for it all open. I can have our next conversation down in the marketplace.
We will. That will be really fun. All right. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Hey friends, if you enjoyed today's episode, please join in the conversation at CREATE+CO Podcast on LinkedIn or Instagram. And don't forget to subscribe. We're so glad you tuned in to Create a Place and look forward to seeing you next time.